I'm Rob.
I'm John.
And this is the Mint One podcast,
where we talk all things Web3 and the rise of blockchain gaming.
So John, the two co-founders of Gala are suing each other.
They are. It's the latest juicy drama in the Web3 space. Let's dive into it.
Okay, before we get started, it's my turn to shill. John does the really professional rate, comment, subscribe, follow us, and blah, blah, blah. I can never remember half the things, and I just feel disingenuous when I'm that happy. So please just follow everything. Like, comment, subscribe. There you go, I said it. Comment who you want us to speak to, what you want us to speak about. We did an episode recently, which was suggested in the comments, and we will continue to do that. If you're interested in being on the pod yourself, if you're someone worthy of our time, and to be honest, the benchmark's very, very low, then send us an email or tweet us at Mint1Pod on Twitter. Right.
Pretty good.
Let's get into one of the weirdest stories in a while. And I mean, Web3 is pretty well renowned for having mental news stories that are just difficult to swallow. And this is crazy. So the reason I want to discuss this, firstly, it's big news. So we should cover it. And it's relating to Web3 and gaming. So we should definitely cover it. But I got home I had a long day, and I got home and I was like, right, I have to write a daily article for Token Gamer. That's just my routine. I have to do it. And I hadn't had a chance. I had meetings and things. And I got in and I was like, let's pick something nice and easy, just a nice news article. Doesn't have to be too special. Let's just get something in the canister. And I sat down and I saw a tweet. Actually, I'm going to shout out both the people whose tweets put me onto this. Hitesh, HITESH.eth, and Timnology. Timnology doesn't have anywhere near enough followers for how good he is at tweeting. Just so give him a follow. So their tweets on some scandal with Gala, and I was like, I'll have a look into it. And then, oh my God, I mean, 5 or 6 hours. I didn't go to bed until like 2 a.m. because I read both complaints, both the lawsuits. One of them's very long. One of them's like 76 pages and one of them's like 26 pages. And then I thought, right, I'm going to be the guy that summarizes the whole thing in an article. So if anyone just wants to like catch up, this is how you do it. So I think this could kind of like, my article can kind of work as a structure for this pod. We can go through it like that, but it is, it's madness, absolute madness. It's the two co-founders of Gala. Yeah. So Gala Games, for anyone who doesn't know, is one of the biggest Web3 gaming ecosystems. It's got a lot of highly anticipated games like Mirandus, which is an MMO that has a huge following and it's not even out yet. And then you've got Townstar, you've got Spider Tanks, you've got Grit, which, just a little side note, you know Bitbender? The kind of...
Yes.
He's like the most vocal person at Gala. Mm-hmm. He's not their community manager, but it's as if he is. Mm. He put Grit, that really cool looking battle royale on Epic Games, he put that in the trash tier on CryptoStash's games Web3 game tier list.
Interesting.
Because he said they're not communicating enough, which is kind of scary. Because that really looks scary, like the strongest game to me outside of Miranda.
I feel like it's one of... To be fair, that there hasn't been much from the Grit camp in a while.
No.
But with them being under kind of the Gala Epic kind of fold now, I mean, it's just one of those Web3 things, isn't it? I don't mean to think or mean to say that people in Web3 are entitled, but there is this demand for like, we want all the info all the time, and if you don't give us all the info all the time, then we hate you now.
Yeah, that's true. It's perhaps a little harsh, but also if he's saying that,
it's not great.
If he's not heard anything, I'm a bit worried. But that was a little side point. So they've got a lot of big games. They've got these node systems where you can buy a node and help run the network and get paid Gala tokens for it. They've got an enormous community. And the two co-founders, I think there's only two co-founders, but two of the co-founders, if there's not, is Eric Schiermeyer and Wright Thurston. And these two are suing each other. Now, it gets deep and interesting, but I don't want to go too much into this bit. There's like there's like a prelude to this, but I couldn't find any concrete stuff. I could only find a YouTube video with making these accusations. But apparently, one of these guys threatened to sue the other and put this suit forward, and then they agreed that, you know, they settled their differences, and they buried he didn't go ahead, whichever one it was, didn't go ahead with the lawsuit, apparently. And then out of nowhere, went ahead months later with that lawsuit. And the other person, I think it's Eric Scheinmeier, had a countersuit, like just racked up and ready to go. So the first person sued the other one, I'm pretty sure it was Thurston suing Scheinmeier. Scheinmeier already had a lawsuit, and within 3 hours, countersued. So it is madness.
Some big brain moves there.
Yeah, it's certainly unsettling. Now, before we get into any more, I found it useful to write down the key players and key terms, because if you read the lawsuit, it's so confusing because they keep using different terms. So the first thing I want to say is, you'll hear people say, I'm going to say it throughout this, BGP or BGP Games, which is short for Blockchain Game Partners. And that's the company name for Gala Games.
Yeah.
So Gala Games is kind of trading as Gala Games.
Yeah.
So when we say BGP, we mean Gala. You've then got Eric Scheinmeier, who is a co-founder and president of Gala Games. He goes by the username on Discord of Benefactor. That's kind of important because he does actually speak a fair bit in Discord and stuff. You've then got Wright Thurston, who's the other co-founder. He goes by the username Blockchain Jedi, which is particularly self-congratulatory, but whatever. And he's the director of Gala Games, and he's a person of significant control of True North United Investments. And True North is Thurston's investment company that owns 45% of BGP Games. So it owns 45% of Gala. Interestingly, the two different lawsuits also list different ownership percentages of BGP.
Yes.
Which I couldn't really make sense of. One of them listed it as 40.927% and the other one listed it as 45. Don't know which is right, but either way, it's a significant chunk of Gala.
Yeah.
And finally, Bitbender is called Jason Brink, and he's president of Blockchain. I mean, people just love making up titles these days, don't they?
Yes, they do.
He's president of Blockchain at Gala Games, whatever that means. He's also very front-facing. He's always on Twitter. He's always on Discord. He's kind of the person that you speak to. He hasn't said much on the case, but he is named in the case. Only a small bit, but he's named. So I've been talking a ton. What do you know about this case? What are your thoughts?
So I've done, obviously when the news broke, I did a little bit of, Twitter sleuthing, and then of course when Decrypt and other outlets started publishing their articles, I kind of dug into it a little bit more. Something I do want to mention, which isn't really related to the story itself, but the amount of low quality articles I had to sift through to get the gist of what was going on was unbelievable.
They're all recycling each other's content. That's the problem.
Yeah, there's sites like CoinGape and or all these others. Well, it's like, experts believe Gala's price is going to increase. There's no references. No, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. Anyway, so I'm basing most of my kind of thoughts and my knowledge on the situation off the article that Decrypt published, which kind of goes over pretty much all of the facts, and then the official statement that Gala Games put out a couple of days ago to try and reassure people of what was going on and how it wouldn't affect Gala's day-to-day. So I think the crux of the lawsuit is that Eric Scheinmeier is alleging, so he's Gala's CEO, and he's alleging that Gala's director, Wright Thurston, stole $130 million worth of Gala tokens back in 2021 through an investment company, which owns about 45% of Gala, 45%, 40.9, whatever the percentage is. We don't know for sure. It's around there. According to Scheinmeier, the tokens were initially moved into a company wallet, then spread across 43 other wallets under Thurston's control before being sold in a, quote, complex web of obfuscatory transactions between September 22 and May 23.
That's a quote from the lawsuit.
Yes, it is. Price of Gala dropped significantly on the news, apparently, although it is only worth like 1 cent anyway. So I think it went down from like...
I think it dropped 20%.
Yeah, it looks... just looking at the coin market cap graphs here, it went from about 2 cents to 1.5 cents. So, I mean, if you're holding a lot of Gala, then...
I mean, 20% is 20%.
It is 20%. So, and obviously there's been people buying, selling, and trading Gala around this money-moving event, I suppose. So, yeah, it's a pretty serious allegation, and it's an odd one to come into the public. Obviously, it's become public because... there's been lawsuits filed, and of course, that's how burst into public domain. But this is usually the kind of thing that is done behind closed doors, is very much tried to be kept under wraps. The board or whatever would get involved to try and settle this kind of thing away from the public eye. And it's very bizarre that you've got the company's CEO and the company's director at each other's throats in court.
It's not a good look.
And no, it's a terrible look. And, Gala came out with an official statement, and they didn't put a name by the statement. It was just, Blake Walker General Counsel. So,
okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's not going to be an informative
No, it's
statement.
Not. But it was very much like, this is just two people high up falling out. It shouldn't affect our day-to-day. I was quite... taken aback, but just kind of weirded out by some of the things said in this, like, we're emphasizing that Gala Games continues to thrive and achieve sustained success, and our film projects are going really well, and Gala Music continues to thrive. But they mention Gala Games, Gala Film, and Gala Music without actually mentioning any of the games or the films or the music.
So,
other than to say, it's all going really well, guys. You should definitely continue to hype it up and be really excited about it. So
it's more interesting than that. It's even that sentence is even more interesting than that, right? So they mention Gala Music and Gala Film, and I think it was Benefactor, which is Shiremeyer, put on Discord. Oh, I've got it here actually. By now, I'm just reading my own article, which feels really strange. By now, you've heard about the lawsuit and countersuit. This is Shiremeyer on Discord. I have an issue and decided that there was only one way to resolve it. But here is what you likely want to know. 1, operations at Gala will continue and there is no change. 2, we have a fiduciary duty to the company that means, do you? That will do whatever needs to be doing to continue the business. There is no imminent threat, blah, 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 blah. And then he says, we have a ton of games and film projects coming out. While this is happening in the background, we continue to build and grow, right? What's really interesting about that sentence is, so in True North, which is Wright Thurston's company, so True North is the one suing Eric Shiremeyer.
Yes.
In their lawsuit, they say that Shiremeyer stole business opportunities that should have been Gala's, right? Now, if you go through the document, the business opportunities that he allegedly, I'm going to have to say that a million times in this pod, the opportunities he allegedly stole relate to Gala Music and Gala Film, which were set up as subsidiaries without board approval and cut BGP out of the deals. So the balls on the lad to then go out and publicly say, look, we're having a fight over this, but check out the things I'm being sued for because they're really good.
We saw a remarkably similar situation several months ago, didn't we? It was one of the big players in the industry basically sent a load of their staff over to Dubai or something to get some investment and open up a new arm of business. And they basically just took all the ideas, started up their own investment firm and ran off. So,
madness.
This is apparently a very common problem in Web3.
It does seem that way. The only thing, so just to round up the Eric Schiermeier versus Wright Thurston and True North lawsuit. So as you say, Thurston and True North allegedly stole 8,645,014,077 Gala V1 tokens in early 2021, spread them across 2.5 million wallets, and then begun selling them in, and as John quoted, in a complex web of obfuscatory, oh my God, I can't even read transactions, where he was able to exchange, hide, or sell $130 million worth of Gala, allegedly. And then the only other thing that he's being sued for is the theft of node licenses. Now, Token Gamer nearly bought a Gala node license, funnily enough, when they went on sale. So I'd have been twice as salty about this case had that have happened. Essentially, they sold node licenses so you can help run their network. And by running their network, you get paid Gala tokens. Now, allegedly, the lawsuit mentions that Thurston and True North stole them and then sold them to people. But now, apparently, and I could not find this anywhere, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I couldn't find any proof of this. Apparently, Thurston and True North are being sued by the purchasers of the stolen licenses. And they're accusing Thurston of defrauding him. Now, for one final, if we're going for the hat trick here, if you want, you have to avoid slander, but at the same time, there's quite a lot of smoke around Thurston. So True North is also being sued by the SEC on a number of fraud charges. So there's certainly some, doesn't look good for him. But
no.
That said, True North and Thurston's case against Eric Schiermeier is pretty crazy. It alleges corporate waste, conversion, and unjust enrichment. Unjust enrichment's a lovely pair of words. That could mean almost anything. And essentially, they claim that Schiermeier misused $600 million of Gala funds, stole business opportunities, which we discussed, and borrowed millions to aid the growth of personal wealth, and was not transparent. Honestly, that's not even half of it. Having read through the 76 pages, understanding maybe 40 of them, it really is pretty crazy. So, the 600 million, I wanted to know what on earth that meant.
Yeah.
But where is that from? So, Schiermeier allegedly burned 21 billion of BGP's V2 Gala tokens, which consequently erased $600 million or more in BGP assets and removed, this got me, because he burned them, he removed $151 million from True North's value as a company. And they didn't know he was going to do it. Now,
God.
I put this in my article. I don't know if you remember this, but I wrote an article in May saying Gala made a big deal that they'd burned $660 million worth of Gala token. It was this big burning event, and it was said to stabilize the token price so that it doesn't inflate, and all these different things. It was really spun as a positive. Now, I find it hard to believe that 660 million was burned on purpose and 600 million was burned by accident. So have they repackaged Schiermeier's burning as something that was intended, or was it intended and Schiermeier's just done the right thing? He was just doing what they intended, but now True North have found a way to make it look like he did it on his own as a rogue burning event.
It is very, very fishy.
It's definitely weird, isn't it?
And the fact that, I'm just going through the Decrypt article again. It's from September the 4th, so it was a while ago. And obviously they kind of lay out all the facts and all the allegations and make a point of saying they reached out to Gala to comment and would update the article if they got a response. And presumably Gala hasn't gone back to them.
No one's answering.
No, and in fairness to Gala, with there being ongoing lawsuits, there's very little they can say. They did say that in their official statement, but still, it's an unusual situation.
It's not a good look.
It's not a good look. And just going over Gala's statement from Blake, as I kind of referenced to earlier, a lot of it is, of course they'll say it's to assuage the fears from our community, which I mean, ultimately, all it means is just, make sure Gala holders don't feel like they're going to lose all their money.
Yeah. Please stop selling.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, their kind of overemphasis on, Gala Music's going really well, and Gala Films is going great, and Gala Games is doing great as well. It's like, is it? Gala Games being they've been a giant in Web3 for years. And of course, their main, or supposedly what will be their main value drive will be their games. If you go on their website right now, what games are live? Okay, they have Champions Arena, which is a turn-based, mostly mobile-based RPG. Got a puzzle RPG, called Dragon Strike, Spider Tanks, which is a PvP brawler, Town Style, which is in beta, and then a Meow Match, which is a match 3 puzzle game.
Sounds awful.
What? And then everything else, which is more promising, is either nobody really knows what's going on with it, for example, Grit, or it's things like Mirandas, which have been in development for God knows how long. Yeah. Development being a very, I'm not sure I can really say development. I don't know, it's improved quite a lot over the last year, 18 months, but it's not looking anything super special, put it that way.
No.
Yeah, I had a lot of faith in Mirandas in particular. I thought Mirandas was going to be one of those games like, this could potentially be something that drives people towards Web3 games. But now it's taken so long, I don't know. And the same's happening with, now that they've branched off into Gala Film. In fairness, with Gala Film, a lot of the things that, are in their trailers and what they have as, in production right now sound pretty cool. They've worked with the director from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and The Mask. I'm not sure that's a claim to fame.
That is an epic film. Don't you dare speak ill of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently they're working with Snoop Dogg on a documentary about...
Who isn't working with Snoop Dogg these days?
Well, that's true. That doesn't really mean too much.
It's everywhere.
Some of the stuff actually looks kind of cool. But then, I look over at Gala Music and they're, as they say in their statement, very... this is groundbreaking music. It's really kind of changing the game. And you look at some of it and listen to some of it and you're like, it's all right. It's not hitting the billboard anytime soon.
No. And Bieber's releasing NFTs, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the kind of thing I'd find on SoundCloud or it's not anything that's going to take my breath away, put it that way.
Yeah. There's still, it does still feel kind of early days for Gala, even though they've been around for 2 years, just over 2 years. To get back to the lawsuit,
yes,
there's two. Oh no, not at all. There's just two brilliant bits, two of my favorite bits of this whole thing that I just can't wait to share. So I'm eager to get back to it. So one of them was corporate waste. Now that could have meant that he burnt $600 million worth of BGP assets without permission.
Yes.
But it also could mean this. Now, this is from section 52 of the lawsuit against him. We'll put both lawsuits in the comments if you're boring like me and would like to sift through and understand some of it, not all of it. I'm just going to read this bit. 52. Moreover, while the company board and unanimously voted on the 11th of January 2023 to liquidate non-crypto assets because of a general turndown in the value of various cryptocurrencies within the digital assets economy, Shiremaier instead directed an installment payment of $5 million to purchase a Gulfstream aeroplane in April 2023 for his personal use. The expenditure was not disclosed to or approved by the board and contradicted the board's vote to liquidate not purchase physical property. I love that they voted to liquidate, in brackets, not purchase physical property. So that's
superb.
That's brilliant thing number one. But can I just read? I'm just going to read what I wrote because I expressed it exactly how I wanted to express it.
Go for it.
In one of the most bizarre elements of this case, BGP had to vote for action to be taken against Shiremaier and for him to be removed from his role as CEO of Gala Games. The vote would require Shiremaier to vote for his own removal. He did not. So they brought a vote about, knowing that the only way it goes through is if he votes for his own removal. I don't think I will.
Christ.
Thank you very much.
My
Meeting
God.
adjourned. Insane. It's
sounds
such an
like
insane case.
It sounds like the setup of most fucking DAOs.
Yeah.
Like where they're just, nobody thought about this sort of thing before they set it up, and they're like, oh God, wait, this doesn't work.
I just can't. I can't believe they had a vote. Why would you bother? No. That's such an embarrassing board meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the bit larger problem that this brings up for me is this isn't something that is an isolated incident at this point. We've seen these things happen at so many of the biggest Web3 and crypto-based companies that, we've got companies with multi-billion-dollar market caps that are so poorly run, poorly structured, that it's just... And I know so many of them are still reaping the rewards off the 2021 bull market, and it's crazy that just more and more of these stories keep coming out, whether it's like founders suing each other, whether it's we did an entire episode on Decentraland, so I'm not going to dredge that back up again.
Yeah, FTX is another great example.
FTX, I'll still remember like 50 episodes ago where you said, FTX, it's good that.
Yeah, I loved FTX. I loved, not as a company, but the app was brilliant.
As a service.
The portfolio was brilliant. I really liked the company. Plus, they were working in gaming. They had all these different initiatives. This is the problem, and I've said this before, and I've written an article recently about this. It's not published yet, but the problem with Web3 was people that didn't have any experience with finance or running big companies were suddenly thrust into finance and running big companies with no ramp up. I mean, so many people were just like, let's start a game or a project and let's try and sell some stuff. And then all of a sudden they've got millions and millions in the bank. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to structure their company. And I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect these people. I wouldn't know what to do in that situation either. And you've just got to hope you can hire smart and try and live through it. But it's a very weird situation to be pretty much undeservedly thrown into a very successful and very rich company, and then trying to work out how to allocate those assets. And then they're employing like mad, knowing all the while that they are at the complete mercy of the crypto market. And the second the market crashes, they then have to reassess their runway, which they probably weren't cultivating anyway, like any sort of decent runway. Like the thing I always liked about Microsoft is, I believe Bill Gates insisted, against all the advice of every financial person in the company, insisted on having every person's wages for a year in cash, not in invested in anything, in cash. They had to have a year's runway of wages in cash, which obviously all the financial people like, just put this in this stock or put it in all these different like funds or whatever. Don't just have like cash is stupid. You're just losing money on it. But he was like, no, I want a year's runway, which I think is it's very difficult to do that. But if you can do it, it's very good. And these companies just didn't. There was one more thing I wanted to bring up, which I put in the final thoughts bit of my article. So it was in, I haven't seen anyone else cite this, but I believe this is the most worrying indictment of Gala Games I've seen. So it was in Eric Schiermeier versus Wright Thurston and True North case. And it was basically just slagging off Thurston. But so remember, he's a co-founder. You can find streams a year ago of him, Bitbender, and Eric Schiermeier all on stream together, showing things, being excited, laughing and joking like friends. Right. Section 6 in this lawsuit. Indeed, Thurston has founded numerous companies, most of which have ended up in litigation, insolvent, bankrupt, and or sued by the SEC. Gala Games appears to be the only legitimate enterprise in which Thurston had an interest, although Thurston had no involvement in the day-to-day operations of the company. In fact, while plaintiff has dutifully managed the company's operations and Thurston has been an absentee director, Thurston has now effectively paid himself, via theft, more than 10 times the total compensation of the plaintiff has received from the company, which means... so there's so many things to unpack here. One, I would put that Eric Scheinmeier has had about 10 million in wages. Thereabouts. But also, what's the odds that someone, if he is as corrupt as Scheinmeier makes out, founded numerous companies, most have ended up in litigation, insolvent, bankrupt, all before 2021? Because I would imagine most of them would have been 2021, and yet you co-founded Gala Games with him. And what's the chances that would be the only company he runs legitimately? If what Scheinmeier says is right, and he is an illegitimate businessman, why would you go into business with him thinking the Gala Games would be any different? Unless you didn't care, and you just hoped it worked in your favour rather than against you, and now it hasn't. Allegedly hasn't. Or maybe, that was, when I read that, I was like, okay, so Gala Games, people say rotten to the core. Well, if this is kind of rotten top down at Gala Games, it is, the very foundations sound as if they are really, really worryingly dodgy. Oh, sorry, one more thing that I didn't mention. So, I'm going to have to, yes, here it is. So this is in the True North versus Scheinmeier case. Now, the reason I brought up Jason Brink, Bitbender, who, again, like if you look him up on Twitter, he is one of the most vocal people in Web3 gaming, like full stop. And I don't know him and I don't know much about him. So I'm just reading facts. Well, I'm reading what's in the lawsuit, whether it's fact or not. So I'm not putting forward my own opinion here. But Gala Games, so I'll just read this. One final point of interest involves Gala Games community icon and president of blockchain. I'm glad I put that in inverted commas because it's a ridiculous soul. Jason Brink, aka Bitbender, whom Scheinmeier is alleged to have funneled millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency to from BGP coffers. Now, in section 41 of True North versus Scheinmeier, it says Scheinmeier caused BGP to send millions of dollars of cryptocurrency to Jason Brink, BGP's president of blockchain, for unapproved and unknown reasons. He also, Scheinmeier this is, allegedly distributed valuable NFTs to himself and select BGP employees without board or shareholder approval. By design, those NFTs should have been randomly distributed to the members of the Gala community. Things like that are very easily traced thanks to blockchain.
Yes.
So I think he's going to have trouble fighting that off. But yeah, it just feels like all the major components of Gala's leadership are awful. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, the thing is, a lot of people framing this, right, as either Scheinmeier's right, and Thurston's scumbag, and True North is just this corrupt enterprise, or Thurston's right, and Scheinmeier's a thieving little shit, and has taken loads of stuff and distributed loads of stuff, right? But what people have failed to look at is that these two countersuits don't contradict each other on each other's points. They can both be true simultaneously. I think, in essence, they could both win their cases.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there isn't a bit of...
Yeah, a bit of both.
I don't think it's like 100. Well, if it is like they're both suits are 100% true, then things really are bad. But I would be very surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah, both 100% false. It's unlikely.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't some wrongdoing by both parties. Let's put it that way.
Just Matt. I don't know why people aren't talking about the fact that this could all, it has the potential, this all could be true without contradicting the other case. So, I mean, even if 25% of each case is true, that is horrendous.
Yeah.
That is utterly horrendous. And some of the claims, many of the claims, are traceable on
absolutely
on chain. So they shouldn't be that hard to prove.
No. I'd imagine there must be some Twitter sleuths already trying to dig in.
Oh, I reckon so.
Get all those transaction hashes on Etherscan. But I mean, it's not a good look. However, this resolves itself. Like whether it does go to court, whether it's settled out of court, it's a very bad look for Gala, and it's very clear that there are some problems there. Exactly what those problems are up for debate, but I mean, if there's this much internal wrangling going on, then the situation at Gala cannot be a good one. Before this whole charade came to light, there wasn't. I mean, if you wanted to judge Gala on what they'd made so far, all you could really point to would be, the games that they've released so far. And quite frankly, if you look at how Miranda's has developed over the past 2 years, haven't really done very much. And the same could be said for quite a lot of their games, if I'm brutally honest. I mean, the same could be said for quite a lot of game companies across the entire Web3 space, if I'm being brutally honest. But
I think if Miranda's is going to be some epic MMO, then the development time is probably fair. It's probably too early to go into any sort of alpha state after 2 years of... I don't actually know how long it's been in development.
Yeah, I have too long at this point for what...
I'd like to see some more than we've seen, for sure. Yeah. Grit, I think, is very disappointing because that looked good. I just, I mean, as Bitbender said, we're just not hearing anything.
To me, Grit seems like one of those games that they've kind of trying to shoehorn Web3 into it where it really doesn't need it. I mean, if they could just make a Web3, not a Web3, sorry, like a Wild West themed Fortnite. Yeah, sure, why not? It's an interesting concept. I'm not sure how they're going to get Web3 into it without turning off potentially a lot of the player base that would have wanted to play that game in the first place. But just to go back to your point of kind of new founders finding millions in the bank and not knowing what to do, I think, and I'm sure Jonah and Fabian from Atomica would both agree here, I don't think they ever expected that they'd go from, we want to make our own game, to, oh, some people are using our marketplace, that's cool, to, oh crap, we have like 30 staff now. And we have all these people that, are salaried and, we'd like to keep roofs over their heads and food on the table and all this. And it's
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I feel that's been the case for an awful lot of Web3 companies that found success. You wake up, it's not quite waking up one day, but, you over a very short space of time in 2021, you go from being uni students or being in some part-time job and not some part-time job, but having a job and Web3 being your part-time gig to all of a sudden, oh, I've got 6 figures in the bank, then it's 7 figures, then it's 8 figures, and then, oh, okay, so I suppose I'm going to grow this, so I need staff, and then the market falls out from under you, like, oh God, what do I do now? And it all happened so quickly for so much of Web3, and to be fair, we're now, 3/4 of the way into 2023, and I'm still surprised that so many of these Web3 companies are around. I mean, obviously, we've just found out that Atomic Hub is now owned by Wombat. I can't really talk about the NFT Insider situation because I don't know what's going on myself. But it's a funny old time in Web3, and I think we've just seen this Gala situation play out. Of course, I don't think they're going to be the first. Well, they're definitely not the first. They're definitely not going to be the last either. I think we're getting to the point where, because the bear market's been going on for so long, we're going to see a lot of this, things aren't going well, let's sue my co-founders, and, there's going to have to be drastic measures taken, and it's pushing people to the nth degree, let's put it that way. I mean, who knows how this Gala situation's going to play out. I mean, either way, it's not good for Gala. I think that's the most important thing. I can understand the people being defensive of Gala. Obviously, it's going to be people that are owning or holding their tokens, holding their NFTs, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's, in my view, one of the biggest problems in Web3, really, is that, if Starfield comes out and you don't like Starfield, fine, you can talk about it on Reddit and stuff, but you don't have a financial incentive to
It does
shore
cloud
up
things.
and defend this company. It's just, oh, they made a game I don't like. Boo them.
Yeah. It absolutely
And
clouds
that's
things.
it. And yeah, Web3 muddies the waters quite a bit. But hey, interesting.
You
Interesting.
see why I went down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It has a lot of facets to it. And I feel like we're only going to get more info over time. I feel like it's going to be this... I don't know if you've been following all the Donald Trump lawsuits, but it seems like every week there's some new crazy revelation that comes out. I feel like this Gala situation is going to be quite similar. So we'll keep tabs on it. We'll see what happens over the coming days, weeks, and possibly months. I imagine this is going to be dragged out for God knows how long.
Oh, years. Too much money not to.
Absolutely. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think that's kind of all we've got to say on the Gala situation, unless you've got anything else to add.
No. We basically covered everything I wrote. Yeah. So if you want basically a text version of this, we'll stick the article in the show notes, in the description. It's just crazy. So we've basically covered everything that we know so far, everything that is known so far.
Yes.
There's a lot of other things, like I said at the start, about this case being sidelined because they resolved the issue. I mean, how do you resolve the issue? If someone burns $600 million of your company's assets without saying anything, how do you resolve that? But apparently what I think probably happened is he's come to him and said, right, I'm suing you. You've burned 600 million. And the guy was like, you think I don't know you stole 130 million? And I was like, all right, we'll call a truce. And then they've fallen out and he's gone, right, okay, I'm actually suing you.
I think it says a lot about Web3 to me, in that this news broke and Gala only fell 8% in price.
Was it really only 8%? Bloody hell.
I feel like if this was, well, according to, I think it's probably fallen further now. That article was from a few days ago. But I mean, if this happened to, I don't know, Amazon.
Oh my God.
If all of a sudden it came out that half the board was suing the other half of the board, then I feel like
Bezos would burn $600 million worth of Amazon stock. Jesus.
Oh man. But yeah,
all right.
We'll keep tabs on it. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's a dire situation. But I feel like it's just endemic of where Web3 is at right now. So
interesting, if nothing else.
Or it's preaching positivity on this podcast. Anyway, episode 79 of the MacLeod podcast is in the airwaves. Rob, where can we find you?
You can find me at tokengamer.io with our new look and all the new blockchain gaming news, as well as random Web3 stuff, AI, cloud, and other emerging technology. We're doing a fair bit of AI stuff just because there's so much AI news. People doing cool stuff. At Token Gamer News on Twitter. You can find us on LinkedIn if you type Token Gamer, or you can find me personally. Download the app. The app's still doing well. People like it. Notifications aren't working at the moment. We know we're trying to fix it. It's just Web3 life. Stuff breaks.
There we go.
Frequently. John, where can people find you?
Cool. So for me personally, you can find me at Hydropowered, HYDROPWRD, on basically everything. Twitter is the main one. And then for all of my non-Web3 stuff, you can search at TopSplitGG on pretty much everything. I've been kind of away from things for the past week because I've been deathly ill. But I'm back and there's stuff coming, so look out for that. And otherwise, just say hello on Twitter or Discord, wherever the hell you find me, and I'll always reply. So there we go.
Cool.
Cool. Episode 79 of the MacLeod podcast is in the books. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, 5-star podcast review. And you can follow us on Twitter at Mint1Pod. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. And we hope you tune in again next week.